Training of young men. Tell me what you've learned over the years about training young men to be good athletes, good leaders, good teammates.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that expectations. I think there's a tendency sometimes, because some of these kids are such gifted athletes, that we have a tendency to pander them, to go down to them, instead of making them, understand that they've got, that there's a lot of things in their life that go beyond what you can do on a football field. And how you scratch their bark, how to get this, how to get them, excited about something besides just knocking somebody on their backside kind of thing. Get them excited about schoolwork, get them involved in something that's going to challenge them. I think that, to me, is the biggest, single most difficult problem I see with young people, because these kids that we're talking about, you see some of them on television, how articulate they are. They're great athletes, they're great people. They get tremendous leadership qualities. Some of them don't even understand the role they can play in a society, that people look up to them. You talk to a kid coming out of a high school who's really a bright kid, and he's a good athlete, and when he leaves, everybody in that school looks up to him. And you've got to somehow get that across to them, the role they have got to play, because
the sense of responsibility.
Have responsibility.
The talents they have, and the fact that people look up to them. They're role models.
Yeah, and they've got to understand that they can't do it alone.
Do you make a speech to kids you're recruiting saying, if you come to Penn State, this is what it's going to be like?
Absolutely.
This is what you need to know about what the Penn State experience is.
Absolutely. I always try to tell them, now look, in fact, I just had a youngster who was up here over 2 weeks ago, and he thinks he's an NFL player. I said, you're not an NFL player. I said, you got a lot of things to learn. I said, you better get in the books. And you better understand, these are the things you got to do. You got to clean up a little bit. You're going to, you're going out in the world. That they're not looking at how, what you can do. They're looking at whether they're not on the field. Eventually, you're going to be off the field. Eventually, you're going to be a father. Eventually, you're going to be somebody going to have to make a contribution to the community. And you got to start preparing yourself for that. It just doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, I think, but that's an ongoing thing. I mean, you don't do that one day. You don't do it one speech. You do it with example. You do it with discipline. You do it with a lot of things. Every once in a while, you got to call a kid in the office and just literally just chew him up and down, as you would your own kids.
Didn't you keep a kid, wouldn't let him play in a big game because he didn't
go to class.
Didn't go to class. He didn't go to class, and he was a star player.
In fact, he played in the Super Bowl. I said, I told him, you cut another class, I'm not taking you to Florida. And he cut another class, so I sat him home. But
did you hear from his parents?
Oh, parents were fine. They eventually, they knew what I was trying to do.
So
the kid. But
do you think he learned the lesson?
Well, I think he learned the lesson. He's been back. He's had some tough luck with one of his children had a sickness, and he lost him. So he's been back up to the campus a couple of times. But it isn't only just, it's just not he. It's, the message you send to 100 other kids on the team. I mean, if you don't have enough courage to take a star and say, you're not coming if you cut classes, doesn't make any difference. You can take a second stringer and do that. Nobody pays any attention.
So you don't cut any slack for stars?
Well, I think if you do that, you lost. You don't have any leadership. I mean, you can't do that. You've got to have, you start out with rules, you start out with regulations, you start out with the idea every guy's going to be treated the same way, regardless of whether you're a great football player or just another football player, and you've got to go from there. If you don't go from there, you get lost.
How many years do you want to do this?
Well, I feel great. I get up in the morning, I thoroughly enjoy coaching. As we talked earlier, I like to look at tapes. I enjoy watching games. I'm excited about playing somebody like a new coach at Notre Dame. Those kinds of things are exciting for me. As long as I feel that way about it, I'm going to coach.
Now, well, here's the question. Now, I want to see you coach as long as you want to. Will you know? Will you know, or do you want somebody to come and tell you that you trust?
Well, I would hope somebody would tell me.
Yeah.
I would hope that there's obviously, you know, there again, when we talk about, you know, how you orchestrate, you know, your career year by year, how I try to get it done. I think you got to be realistic about how much responsibility you designate. You know, the kind of people around you.
Are you doing more of that?
Absolutely. No, I am now more of a, you know, somebody that says, hey, I think we're neglecting this. We ought to do this. You guys got to hustle a little bit more in the practice field. The old days, I used to try to do it all by myself. I'm not that. I can't do that physically. I'm not the same football coach I was 15 years ago, and I'd be foolish if I thought I was. But whether I'm effective or not, you know, obviously I think I am. But there's going to come a time.
The record speaks for itself.
Yeah, but there's going to be a time when a couple of guys on the staff that I've had that have been friends of mine, been kids I recruited out of high school, that played for me and are now coaching, that I would hope they'd sit down with me and say, hey, Coach, you know, we got about time, and at least think about it. You know, just get me started to feel like maybe now I got to start to withdraw. I don't feel that way right now yet. I really feel pretty darn good. I'm excited about next year, excited about my team, I'm excited about my staff, and I want to, you know, and I want to stay. As long as I feel that way, I don't think I'm ready to start to talk to people about, hey, when do I start to withdraw?
When you, is there a goal you want that you haven't had? Do you want to sort of win some magical number of games?
No, I really don't.
You want to win the Rose Bowl?
Well, you know, we've been to the Rose Bowl, won the Rose Bowl. You know, we played Oregon in '94 out there.
You've been the team of the year. You've been.
Yeah, no, I don't. I enjoy the competition. You know, it sounds corny, but I really like the challenge of trying to get a bunch of young guys to go beyond their potential as just athletes. We talked about that earlier. You know, how do you do? You know, it's very, very. You know, I don't know. Maybe you kid yourself, maybe how much impact you have on it. But when a bunch of kids come back, like when we were losing, it was amazing how many kids came back, right, to practice and letters I got from kids saying, hang in there, Coach, you know, we're with you, you're going to be fine, and the whole bit. And people that have done well with their lives, with their families, bring their kids up. I just had a letter from a kid that played for me who's a doctor, coach. He's at the University of Michigan Hospital. He's coming through in April with his 3 boys, and he wants to stop and, you know, have him meet me. You know, that's an ego trip, but it's... and it's something that I would miss. I really would miss that interplay with kids, and you know. So I'm going to try not to get out of it until I really feel like I can't make a contribution.
When you think of heroes and role models, who do you think of?
Well, there are a couple of people. First, my father, because of the fact that he was such a self-made guy, and you know, and really became a lawyer under the most. You know, I can still remember him. He had 2 jobs, and during the Depression, and you know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, he was getting ready for the bar exam. You know, and that kind of. And a young scholastic priest by the name of Father Birmingham, who took an interest in me, and said to me, when I decided I was going to go to a non-Catholic college, when I decided to go to Brown, a lot of the Jesuit priests were very upset. I was, you know,
I can imagine.
Yeah, they were all, you know, because they wanted me at Georgetown or Holy Cross or Boston College. Father Birmingham was a scholastic. He was about 27, 20-year-old guy who was studying to be a priest, and the Jesuits used to take 12 years to be a priest. He said, I don't want you to go up there. He said, you and I'm gonna translate Virgil's Aeneid. Because I had 4 years of Latin in school, and he said, we'll translate Virgil's Aeneid, because he said Virgil was really the forerunner of humanism and different things. So he went and got my basketball coach to come and shoot my foul shots in the morning, and he and I translated Virgil. And he and I became long time friends. We went to Rome, my wife and I, and he was studying over at the college at Rome and took us all around Rome and went to different places, and he would write me and encourage me and always set higher goals for me than I thought I could achieve. So he was kind of a hero for me, and he and my dad were probably the two guys, the biggest heroes.
And how about among coaches?
Well, there were so many, there's so many. Lombardi obviously would be because I knew him. I lived in a neighborhood, one parish was Lombardi, my parish was St. Edmunds, and the Torrey family was in the next parish in Brooklyn. Yes. In fact, I tell people I dated...
Does that make you a Yankee fan?
Yeah, no, I hate the Yankees.
Because you love the Dodgers?
Oh, I used to be an usher at Ebbsfield for 2 years.
Right. You seem to have a love of books.
Absolutely, I enjoy books.
I mean, that comes from the Jesuit training, I assume, in part.
And I was an English major, and my wife's an English major. In fact, my wife tutors kids for me. She was going to go to Brown on a scholarship when she got out of Penn State, and I robbed the cradle. She was,
You've given over $3.5 million to the library. This is money you get from all your activities as coaches, endorsements.
We make more money than we should make, coaches today.
Boy, it is amazing. $1 million salaries and $1 million contracts with shoe manufacturers and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we live a very simple life. We've been in the same house for 30-something years, and, we don't... my wife still presses my clothes, still washes my shirts. I mean,
you got lucky.
So we did not spend much money. So we, what do you?
So you gave it to the library.
We gave it to the library, gave some to the university, endowed some scholarships. Got a scholarship in honor of Father Birmingham, who in the classics. We established a scholarship in the classics. But to me, that dimension of my life, to be able to sit down and read a book. You know what I mean? And just like we talked about the team of rivals, just to have somebody who can sit. I suppose I don't fool around with computers. But I suppose some people can get that same kind of experience out of a computer. But just to have that book and to go back to a page. Books have been a very important part of my life. Always have been, even when I was a kid.
Has football become? Is it a different game than it was even 10 years ago? I mean, is it much more complex in terms of strategy and in terms of what people are learning and the quality of the things that people can do and the conditioning they're in and all of that?
The intensity that's been created. And, of course, obviously the ability to tapes, and all of the you say computers, all my coaches, they get their own computers. We go on a trip, and we're coming home, and they get tapes from the next opponent right on the plane.
But didn't I read where you have used PlayStation? You use Sony PlayStations, and you give the kids so they can do something?
Absolutely. No, the coaches do that. I don't. Really, my role really right now is to
set the direction.
Set the direction, incentive, goals, competence. Things that, we started the season last year after a couple of bad years, and I said, look, I don't want anybody around here who thinks we're going to win 6 or 7 games. I'm not into this.
I'm here for 11 straight.
Yeah, I don't want to win 6 or 7 games. Man, anybody can do that. Try to set some things like that, and try to identify the kids that can help us do that. And
thank you for coming.
Oh, and I want to say very quickly, I've thoroughly enjoyed everything you said. You bring something to television that we need. All right, insight, civility. All right, discussion of important things.
Yeah, but I could have been a quarterback.
The guy from Duke.